Okay, let's start with something that sounds like a cruel joke, but it's not. The person who spent a decade in medical school saving lives gets punished by the tax system, while the person who owns the hospital, well, they can pay almost nothing. And the craziest part? It's not illegal. It's just the system.
And here's exactly why. The tax code treats two kinds of money very, very differently. First, there's labor. That's the money you work for. Then there's capital. That's the money that works for you. One is basically a piranha tank, and the other, that's the treasure chest.
So if you're a high-income earner, a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, you can lose up to 37% of your money to federal taxes on your labor. That's before you even get a chance to touch it. The system is literally designed to punish you for working harder.
But the tax rate on capital, on, real wealth, it can be zero. Yeah, zero. And not through some shady offshore account, but by using a 3-step legal loophole that the government practically begs them to use. Okay, let's dive into how this actually works.
See, most of us are stuck in what's called the W-2 trap. It's linear income. You work an hour, you get paid for an hour. It's honorable, it's noble, and it's the most heavily taxed thing on planet Earth. It's like a treadmill that just speeds up the faster you run.
So how do you get off the treadmill? Well, you have to stop being just a worker and become an owner. And that brings us to the very first step of the cycle. You don't save money. No, you put it in the freezer.
You have to understand, to the wealthy, cash is fire. A savings account isn't a safe haven. It's a guaranteed loss. Every single second, the silent tax of inflation is just eating your purchasing power. So it forces their hand. They have to buy something. So they take basically every penny they have and they dump it into assets that grow faster than inflation. We're talking about things like stocks, huge apartment complexes, or even pieces of private companies. They're not saving cash, they're acquiring productive assets.
And here is where the magic trick happens. If your stock portfolio grows from, say, $1 million to $10 million, you have technically made nothing in the eyes of the IRS. It's called an unrealized gain. Think of it like a ghost. And the tax man, well, he can't touch a ghost.
But that leads to the obvious problem, right? I mean, if all of your wealth is tied up in these assets and you never ever sell them, how do you live? How do you buy the mansion or the yacht? You're asset rich, but you're totally cash poor.
And this is where we get to step 2, which is the most counterintuitive, mind-bending part of this entire strategy. You don't sell the asset to get cash. No, you use the asset to attract cash. You borrow.
Okay, this right here, this is the absolute core of the whole loophole. Write this down. Loans are not income. When you take out a loan, that money is not considered income. You can get millions in cash to spend, and the IRS gets zero.
This does two amazing things at once. First, you get all the cash you need to live a lavish lifestyle, completely tax-free. And second, you create a money machine. It's called arbitrage. When your assets grow faster than the interest on your loan, you are literally getting paid to borrow money.
I mean, just look at the math. If your assets are growing at 10% a year, but the bank only charges you 4% interest on your loan, you're making a 6% profit on money that you borrowed to spend. Think about that. It is literally free money.
Now, is it completely risk-free? Of course not. If the market crashes and the value of your assets suddenly plummets, the bank gets very nervous. They'll issue something called a margin call, which means they demand you pay back the loan immediately. This is how billionaires can go broke overnight.
But assuming you manage that risk, you can keep this cycle of buying and borrowing going for your entire life. Until you get to the final, and honestly, the most unbelievable step of them all. You use death itself to beat taxes.
So when you die, your assets transferred to your heirs, and this magical little loophole in the tax code called the step-up in basis kicks in. Basically, the IRS just pretends that your heir bought the asset on the day you died for its full current market value.
So what does that actually mean? It means that, say, $99 million in growth you accumulated over a lifetime, and the massive tax bill that should come with it, just poof, it's gone, legally vaporized, wiped completely clean.
So your son or daughter can turn around and sell that $100 million asset the very next day, and the tax bill they will owe on all those decades of growth is exactly $0. The slate is totally, completely wiped clean.
And what do you think the heir does with that giant tax-free inheritance?
They pay off the old loans, and then they start the whole cycle all over again. Buy, borrow, die. Repeat. It's a perpetual motion machine for building intergenerational wealth.
It feels like a total scam, right? And that's because the game is rigged. So why does the government allow this? Well, the official argument is stability. They basically bribe the wealthy to never sell their assets, to keep all that money propping up the stock market and the economy.
So what can you actually do with this information? I mean, you probably can't go get a $10 million loan tomorrow, but you can stop playing their game by their old rules and start using their mindset.
So here are the big ideas you can take away. 1. Stop thinking of cash as safe. It's a melting ice cube. You need to own assets. 2. Good debt, debt used to buy assets, is a tool, not a trap. And 3. Your goal isn't just a bigger paycheck. It's a bigger portfolio of assets.
You know, the crazy thing is, none of this is a secret. It's all written in black and white right on the IRS website. The system is designed this way, and it counts on the fact that most people will be too bored to ever learn the rules. But now you have. The question is, what are you going to do about it?
Just remember the core principle that drives this entire engine of wealth. You have to protect the asset that produces the value. You can live off the milk, but you never, ever sell the cow.